Kurt, thanks for spending time with us on this Sunday.
Thanks for having me, and thank you to the listeners for the overwhelming amount of support I've received from you.
Specifically from radio, period, or CNN, or from this show?
From the listeners of this show.
Oh, so they've been in contact with you. I would imagine they've been sending you a lot of info.
Yes, fair amount.
Well, Mr. Haskell, you've got the floor here. Kind of break down what happened and the FBI changing its story now 4 times.
Sure. You want me to talk about that specifically?
Yeah, I mean, just recap it briefly, but sure. I mean, just
okay. Well, the man I call the man in orange. I'm just going to go over this real quickly for those that don't know. When we were being detained in Detroit, we were held in an area of a baggage claim area. Then all the passengers from our flight. There was nobody else around in this area from other flights. Workers, nobody, except for some law enforcement personnel. After we had been there for about an hour, all the time with our carry-on bags, 3 bomb-sniffing dogs were brought in. One of them sat down by the bag that was brought in by the man in orange. He had an orange. He appeared to be of Indian or Pakistani or some similar descent, maybe around age 30. He was walked back to a room, not in handcuffs. He went in the door. He was in there approximately an hour. When he came out, he was handcuffed, taken away. An FBI officer came up to the group of the rest of us passengers and said the following, which is not exact, but close. You're being moved to another area. It's not safe here. I'm sure all of you saw what just happened and can figure out why you're being moved. We were then escorted out of this very large room into a long, narrow hallway. My story on this has been the same all along, and the FBI now has 5 versions of their story, which I lay out in an article I wrote on MLive. It's actually gotten difficult for me to remember which one is which and when they put them out, but basically when I go out and call them out on this story, then a new version comes out. Their new version comes out, I call them out on that, and another one comes out, and this has happened now. They've now had 5 versions, which I clearly lay out with a time period and with each version, and they're not credible. And the reason, in my opinion, the reason this is happening is there is absolutely no excuse for the reason why. Number one, we were left on the plane for 20 minutes, not knowing if there was another bomb there. Number 2, security allowing us to take our carry-on bags off the plane into the place where we were being held, and we stood there with all of our bags together for an hour until the bomb-sniffing dogs arrived. And then, after they found one, well, then we're moved to another area, and now they don't want to talk about the man who was taken away. I've repeated this many, many, many times, and there's no explanation for any of this except for these stories that keep changing. So make of that what you will, but, I'm kind of irritated about it. And then I see on TV today, I didn't catch the man's name, but the deputy of Homeland Security who now says that, are we still live? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're going to break. Stay there.
Okay.
You can do another segment with us, can't you, Kurt?
Sure, absolutely.
All right, let's come back and finish up there. And there's been some bizarre statements made by John Brennan, the terrorism czar, concerning this. We'll be right back. Stay with us. So, last Christmas, Friday before last, this young Nigerian man without a passport gets on board this aircraft. His father had gone to the embassy repeatedly, had said, my son is training with terrorists in Yemen. You've got to stop him. And he was not even put on the terror list. But congressmen get put on it. Over 1 million Americans can't fly. It's a list. You don't know how you get on it. You don't know how to get off. Guilty until never proven innocent. You're just a slave. A nameless slave. And you have thousands of troops massing in and around Yemen. You have U.S. airstrikes being prepared. You have the media saying we may go to war with Yemen in the week before this. And then this bombing comes along, the perfect pretext for it. And you've got eyewitnesses of the sharp-dressed man bringing the underwear bomber up, saying he doesn't have a passport, but let him on the plane. He gets on. Witnesses report someone videotaping the whole flight aimed at the underwear bomber, then during the flight, then during the attack. The FBI says there are no videos. They say that there was no one taping, despite other witnesses saying this. And then they're impeached. They're caught saying no one was detained. We didn't say somebody had a bomb. No one was taken away. We didn't tell people get out of here for your safety once they landed in Detroit. And now they've changed their story and said, okay, we did detain somebody, but for a passport issue. But the bomb-sniffing dog that Mr. Haskell and his wife saw went over to the guy's bag. That's why they took him away. So now they've changed their story 5 times. Go over the 5 different stories, Kurt Haskell, again, who was on board Flight 253. Break down the 5 different stories we've heard.
Okay, I'll try. It's getting hard for me to remember them all.
And you got cut off by the break. You got cut off by the break, too. Finish that point if you need to.
Okay, just briefly, I'm going to finish my last point. White House aide Brennan, I saw on TV this morning clarifying a point made earlier in the week by Janet Napolitano. And please don't take this as a shot at the current administration. I'm making no claims to what my political alliances are.
As you've said, you just want the truth. Go ahead.
I just want the truth. I take issue with this statement. And the statement earlier in the week was our system worked, and now aide John Brennan says, well, no, our system worked after the incident. And to me, what happened after the incident, as I've been explaining before the break, was this utter chaos. I can't see how they can say anything worked at all. It was a complete disaster. Nobody knew what they're doing. Nobody knew who was in charge. They let us into the airport with our bags that might have and probably did have a bomb in one of them. They didn't search our bags by hand, ever. They had the alleged video made on the flight there with us that they could have seized. They didn't do that, even though a fellow passenger of mine pointed out that the man could have only been in 4 possible seats. They did nothing to find that out to see who that was. It was an utter disaster. So I really take issue with that point. Now, the 5 versions, well, the first version was that the man in orange didn't exist at all. I believe it was 4 days until they even admitted he existed. And then
in fact, you had the FBI at your office, and they didn't want to discuss that person.
That's right. When they came to my office on Tuesday, they showed me a picture of a person. I said, well, I can't say for sure, but it kind of looks like the guy that you took away in handcuffs that you refused to admit exists. Later that day, well, I believe it was later that day or the next morning, version 2 came out, which was, yes, there was a man on our flight taken away, being held indefinitely on immigration charges. Then version 3 came out, I believe it was later that same day.
Now, let's be clear. You were there. They didn't stop him for immigration violations. The dog went over and sat down in front of his bag, the alert for explosives.
Right. Exactly.
Unless this is a passport-sniffing dog.
Apparently, this is some kind of wonder dog that can sniff papers and read them with his nose. I don't know. Version number 3 was that this man was from another flight, which was impossible. We were kind of quarantined. There was no one else around anywhere. I mean, this is, the biggest investigation.
So then they gave another story. They said, we've taken him away. Then there's another story. It was another flight.
Right. Story 3 was that it was another flight, and after I went on the internet writing a blog about that, claiming how it was impossible, and telling them I anxiously await version 4, I was surprised to get version 4 and 5 within the next day. And I'm trying to think what those were, but I think version 4 was, yes, there was a man taken away from our flight, but we searched him and questioned him and found nothing. There was another man taken away from another flight, and he's being held or something like that. And version 5 was, yes, we took someone away, but it was due to having some agricultural issue with bringing food in the country or something like that. I can't remember it exactly, but I lay it out well in my blog.
Oh, so now the bomb-sniffing dog... Now the bomb-sniffing dog is a agriculture food-sniffing dog. Right.
And I think they even said that man was also from another flight, I believe.
Okay, now here's the big issue. You and other people saw this guy led away. There have been quite a few of your fellow passengers say, no, we saw him. They ushered us out for our safety. So they started having to change their story. This is a huge story, one of the biggest out there. The FBI is on this full time. They know what's going on. Why are they being dishonest? And how do we investigate this when the investigators themselves are engaged in clear obstruction of the truth?